Name of narrator is Chelsea Henry. Name of interviewer is Ariel Pearson. The date is Thursday, February 21st, 2019. We are in the Ruth Patrick Science Center, and it is 12:30. So, when and where were you born?
I was born just outside of Los Angeles in a town called Santa Clarita in California, July 21st, 1992.
Is that where you grew up?
I did until I was 18.
What can you tell us about your family?
Sure. I'm an only child, so growing up it was just me, my mom, and my dad. They both still live in Los Angeles. My mom's family is all from the Los Angeles area, and my dad's originally from just outside of Detroit, so his family's out there.
Were you close to your parents growing up?
Oh yeah, very close to my parents. We're still very close.
And were either of your parents military?
No, they weren't. I hadn't met a single military person before I joined, so.
What kind of activities were you involved in high school?
Sure. Oh gosh. I was involved in a lot of different things. I think primarily I did a lot of sports. I did softball and field hockey were my two main ones. I was part of kind of a peer support group on campus that was more like psychology based, and then I did like admissions committee things for my school as well, so giving tours and things like that.
So what kind of sports were you involved in?
Softball and field hockey.
Okay. And where'd you go to high school?
It's called Harvard Westlake School. It's in North Hollywood.
You weren't a member of JROTC?
It wasn't even offered at my school. It's not a very popular thing in Southern California, I don't think.
Did you work after high school? Or
No, I went straight into college. I did ROTC in college, so I got my scholarship to Vanderbilt through ROTC.
And what'd you major in at Vanderbilt?
And psychology.
Okay. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your ROTC experience, or?
Sure. It was kind of out of the blue that I even joined ROTC. Didn't really have any family connections or friends or anything like that, so I just decided that I needed to do something bigger than myself, I think. So I did a summer leader seminar at West Point in between my junior and senior year of high school, and that's what kind of sold me on the Army life. So my experience in ROTC at Vanderbilt was amazing. I met a group of people that became my very best friends. It was a lot of work. Not many college students have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go work out before classes, but I think it kept me pretty disciplined. It gave me kind of a family unit, especially since I was so far away from home, and we were all moving towards the same goal. So we all commissioned as active duty officers at the same time and kind of have been keeping up with each other ever since. So
That's great. So was your ROTC experience, is that like basic training for you?
kind of. It's more of like a really intense varsity sport in college. It's hard to explain. We did physical training early in the mornings, at least 3 or 4 times a week. And then we had classes twice a week that were military science based. So one of them was usually like an actual sit-down lecture class, and the other one was a lab. And so what we'd do is we'd learn kind of like military tactics. We'd get into squads. We'd go out into these big open fields and kind of, practice leading attacks on a road or something like that. So it was more just like mixed in with our regular classes and regular college life, but in between your junior and your senior year, you do like what they call basic officer training.
Okay.
So it's only for a month during the summer, but it's pretty intense. So
And so why did you enlist? Was it just because ROTC and that was like the next step? Or
yeah, so it's actually the terminology is kind of confusing. So officers don't enlist, they commission. Most of the enlisted soldiers will enlist and they'll go to basic training, but for me, part of my scholarship was that I owed 4 years active duty outside of college. So I did commission as part of my requirement, but I would have done it anyways.
And how old were you then?
21. Yeah.
So what was your family or friends' reactions that weren't part of your ROTC?
By the time I hit the end of college, and everybody was they knew that was the next step, and so nobody was really surprised. I think the biggest shock came when I first decided to do ROTC and took, applied for and accepted the scholarship. My parents were both a little wary, I think they were nervous. They didn't really have much information about the military or what I was really signing up for. They didn't understand the difference between enlisting or becoming an officer, that kind of thing. So there was a little bit of a confusion in the beginning, but they both came around and they're very supportive, and so were all of my friends.
Do you think going into the military, did it feel different because you didn't attend basic training, or not really, because you had already had all this experience?
I don't think so. No officer attends basic training, so no matter how they go in, you can either go to West Point, do ROTC, or do officer candidate school. And so officer candidate school is probably the closest thing to basic training, but even then it's not basic training. So as soon as I commissioned, I had other second lieutenants just like me, and all of the officers that I was dealing with on a day-to-day basis, none of them had gone to basic training. So that was just kind of the norm.
Okay, so what was your first assignment?
I went to Korea.
Okay, and that was the 19th Expeditionary Sustain and Command unit?
Yeah. I know, a lot of weird words that don't make a lot of sense, but they were basically the logistics hub for everything that was going on in South Korea. So,
so what kind of activities were you involved in there?
Sure, I did. So I was a human resources officer. So my main job was maintaining personnel, so anything from awards to evaluations to placement in jobs, how many people we had, were they allocated correctly, what was our strength, were people on leave, were they at work, what was going on. It was normal day to day. It really was. It was kind of like a 9-to-5 job, but we would do these big peninsula-wide exercises every once in a while where you'd go into like a training zone as if something were going on, and those were probably the most fun.
So what was it like going from straight out of Los Angeles to Korea, pretty much?
Yeah, so I did get that buffer in between of, Vanderbilt's in Nashville, Tennessee, but it was definitely culture shock after culture shock. I think I left home, went to the South, and then went from the South to Korea. Honestly, I loved it. Part of why I wanted to join the military was to travel, so I was really excited about the opportunity. I got to see pretty much all of Southeast Asia while I was over there, so it was just a really amazing experience.
So how long were you with Team 19?
Yeah, I was there for a year. I did a year tour.
And did you become close friends with anybody in the unit, or?
Kind of. There's a weird, I was actually the only lieutenant in my company of 300 people, so it was, there's some rules about who you can and can't be friends with at certain ranks within the military, but I had some other friends that were stationed at different points across Korea, and so we'd visit each other, and I adopted a dog while I was over there too, so I wasn't ever alone.
What kind of dog?
He's a little mutt. He was just from a rescue down the street, and I took him home with me, so.
So when did you transfer to the 707th Military Intelligence Battalion?
That was at the end of 2015. So after my year in Korea, I went straight to Fort Gordon.
And you said you were a human resource officer with that unit as well?
Yes, I was.
Was it very similar work, or well, I'm sure there were differences, but...
Honestly, it's pretty much the same wherever you go. You're dealing with the same kind of paperwork, structure, expectations, job description, that kind of thing. But definitely different being in the States as opposed to being in Korea. And the neat part about my job is that I can be assigned to all different types of units. So my first was a logistics command, and then I moved to a military intelligence command where I got to work pretty closely with the NSA at Fort Gordon, which was really interesting. So I got to learn a lot, and just kind of the soldiers that I was working with on a day-to-day basis were doing completely different things. So even though my job was mostly the same. I was interacting with soldiers that were like on a completely different mission, which was really cool.
Is there anything else about the 707th you'd want to share?
Not really. The cool part about them was that most of them were linguists, so they all speak a lot of different languages, which was just kind of mind-blowing to me, just how intelligent some of the soldiers were and the kind of things that they would do on a day-to-day basis. It was neat to experience.
Did you have to learn Korean going into the Team 19?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I wanted to. I didn't really have the time, but you pick up on little words here and there. But surprisingly, around Korea, most people speak at least a little bit of English, so it's easier to get around.
So where did you go after the 707th?
Yeah, so I got out in about a year and a half ago, and as soon as I got out, I was applying to schools, and so about 6 months later was when I started here at USC Aiken.
And the highest rank you achieved was first lieutenant?
Yes.
Is there anything else about your military experience you'd want to talk about, whether it was in Team 19 or even ROTC?
Oh gosh, I don't know. It was kind of a whirlwind. I think I didn't go a very conventional route through my time, and I originally wanted to go career with my military time, but that didn't pan out for me. But I think the biggest thing I realized is that everybody does it for a different reason. Everyone's coming from a different place when they join the military. And I have just a lot of respect for all of the people that I served with, just because, making the commitment to join at a time when there's turmoil and people are at war, and I just have a lot of respect for that decision and the people who are continuing to serve.
So what year did you leave the military?
It was November 2017, so.
And you mentioned before that there were some medical reasons involved. Would you want to talk about that, or?
Sure, I can. So I was actually medically retired in November 2017, which is weird because I was only in for 4 years, but it was just from a car accident that happened while I was on active duty, so.
So you left the service 2017, and then did you start your business right after?
I did. I started that small business. It was more just to have something to do while I was waiting. I knew my next step was to go back to school. I always wanted to get my master's at least, and psychology has always been a passion of mine, so that's really what I wanted to pursue. My small business was just kind of a fun way to do some crafts, have some fun, and meet people. And
so what about, what do you make for your business?
Mostly t-shirts. So I do the vinyl and designing and stuff for t-shirts, and now it's more of a side thing that I do for fun. But
what was it like transitioning from this high military officer back to being a civilian?
It was really difficult. I didn't expect it to be as hard as it was. I think I didn't realize that 8 years of my life had been dedicated to the military through college and then my 4 years active duty. And you have this family unit always. No matter, when I was in college, it was the people in ROTC with me, and when I was active, it was my unit. And the Army's not just a job, it's a lifestyle, it's a culture, and you're constantly surrounded by people who would get up in the middle of the night to come help you, or, and you do the same for them because everybody kind of has that same level of respect and appreciation for each other. I was really grateful to have, my family's support when I transitioned out, but even still, it was kind of a, who am I now? It was such a big part of who I was, and it still is, but trying to discover who I was without the military uniform and what that next step was definitely a difficult challenge.
So when did you return to college, and where did you enroll? Was it USC first, or was there some other school?
No, I went straight. So I had about a 7-month period of not doing much of anything, and then in the fall of 2018 was my first semester here at USC Aiken.
What made you decide to come here?
It was just kind of the perfect opportunity. My husband's stationed at Fort Gordon still, so we had to stay local. I was looking for a small, well-renowned psychology program, and that's really what I wanted to do. So kind of just doing my research about things that were programs that were local, I stumbled upon USC Aiken, and the program here was just exactly what I was looking for. So I really just lucked out as far as it being where I needed it to be.
I know you haven't been here long, but how have you liked it so far?
I love it here. I really do. It's vastly different from Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's huge. I mean, not as big of it as a state school or anything, but classes are 200 to 300 people, each lecture hall and things like that. And so being able to be part of a cohort that's I have 10 people in my cohort that's going through the program with me. And the professors really, truly care about how well you do, and they want to see you succeed, and they're invested in your time and your energy. Honestly, the military support on campus was something that was really important to me as well, because I knew that would be something that was missing if I went somewhere else. And so knowing how, the Veteran and Military Student Success Center on campus is so hands-on with their students, and I was lucky enough to get an assistantship working there. So it's kind of like I've found that my family again, my military family again too. So that's been really important to me as I continue my academia.
So do you have like a work-study job with the Veteran Center? Or?
Kind of. It's a graduate assistantship through my graduate psychology program. So for the center, what I do is I help students with kind of life things that might be going on that are keeping them from being as successful as they can be in classes. So my primary goal is to meet with all of our veteran students and make sure that their transitions are going well, and if they have anything that they need to work through, like stress management, time management, problems at home, just kind of day-to-day life stuff, I'm there to kind of walk them through that and help give them the tools to better succeed. So it's really neat because the campus does so much as far as resources and tutoring and academic success and career services and all of that, but I get to kind of come in and make sure that everything else outside of that is working well too. So
I know you kind of already touched on this, but do you think USC Aiken's a good school to be a student or to be a veteran?
Oh, absolutely. The resources available to veterans on this campus and the support and just the level of respect and appreciation that I see on a regular basis from faculty and fellow students is just more than I could have ever expected. I've been blown away and very impressed by just kind of the culture and the community feel of the campus.
You said you all had always planned to come back to college, but what made you choose psychology?
Psychology has been something I've been interested in kind of since high school. I did a peer support program in high school where I took a couple extra classes and I learned how to lead kind of like a peer group where some of the students would come and talk about hard things they were dealing with outside of school, and we'd kind of, facilitate the communication in a group of how do we work through this and letting the students know that they had support and people who cared and understood. And so that kind of really made me realize how many people struggle, how many people have a hard time on a day-to-day basis, and the lack of resources available to those people sometimes, either because of just truly not having resources available or the stigma surrounding getting help. And so I knew that was something, I saw it tenfold in the military.
Yeah.
And so that was something I knew I wanted to get back to and work on.
For students starting college adjustment, or how was adjusting back to college for you?
Honestly, it's been so great. I love it. It feels good to be in a classroom setting again. It feels good to be learning something that really I know will make a difference one day, and just be working towards a goal that I've had for a very long time. It was hard and kind of bittersweet to let go of the idea of being career in the military, but this is, the best alternative I could have asked for.
Mm-hmm. And are you a full-time student or?
Yes, I am.
What is something you wish pretty much all college professors knew about being a student veteran?
I think just because we've been through experiences or situations that the other students haven't, doesn't mean that we aren't just as stressed out by the day-to-day stuff. I think professors tend to look at military students and go, well, look at all they've done. This test isn't going to freak them out, or they can handle this work, or they can, I think there's a different expectation for veteran students as opposed to non-veteran students, and I don't think that that's true. I think that the transition into academia isn't easy for a lot of people. Some of them haven't gone to college before. Some of them haven't done higher education before. And so all of this is new. And it's nothing like they've worked on before in the past. And so just kind of being more understanding of how the day-to-day things can really stress them out too, and maintaining equal expectations for all students.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your family?
Sure. Yeah, my husband is, he's a linguist at Fort Gordon, so he's still active duty, and his son, my stepson, lives with us, and he's 11. He's in 5th grade, and he's doing really, really well. And we have 3 dogs and a cat as part of our family, too, so.
How was the transition to becoming a parent?
You know what, it's been really fun. I've been part of Carson's life for about 3 years now, and my husband and I just recently got married a little over a year ago. But Carson's been living with us for longer than that, and it's just been really fun to get to watch him grow, and he's just a really sweet kid and made it really easy for me, honestly. We have a good connection, and I've just been able to see kind of some of the progress he's made and some of the passions that he's creating, and it's really neat.
Is there anything you wish grade school teachers knew about children who have military active parents?
I think especially in areas where there is a larger military base around, I think the teachers are pretty well versed in some of the challenges that they face, but the hardest thing is just moving around.
Yeah.
We're going to be facing another move here in a year or two, and I know it's difficult for these kids to start over. It's difficult for them to want to make new friends when they know they're going to have to say goodbye at some point. So just kind of, I guess, being more understanding of that, but from what I've seen, they are understanding of it.
And what do you currently do with your free time? Your business still? And
I don't do the business thing. I honestly don't have a ton of free time because I do full-time school and the assistantship at VMSS here, and then I also do a research assistantship at Fort Gordon at the hospital on base, doing research in the neuropsychology clinic. So that's been really interesting too. But I guess in my other free time, if I have it, I usually just spend time with my family, walk the dogs, take them on hikes, that kind of stuff.
That's really impressive. How has being in the military shaped your life?
Oh gosh, it's given me experiences that I couldn't even dream of. I mean, truly, I have been so blessed in my ability to have leadership experience straight out the bat. I mean, not many 21-year-olds are thrown into a large management position, which is basically what being an officer is. I got to travel, I got to see the world. It's really made me appreciate everything around me, because going to different countries or sometimes, sleeping in the field for a month or something like that, you really have a bigger appreciation for just every little thing that you have. I've met a lot of families who have had some losses as well, and so I really appreciate my family and our safety and our security. And it's just truly made me a better leader, I think a better student. My work ethic has just improved tenfold since I joined the military. And it's given me a better understanding as to how to best help my fellow veterans, and that's what I really want to do, and that's why I love my job at VMSS so much, is because I can really take what I'm learning now to help the family that I've always felt a part of.
Okay, where do you see yourself in 10 years' time?
Well, hopefully this winter I'll be applying to some PhD programs, so hopefully by then I'll have my PhD. My dream is to become a professor, but also kind of run my own clinic on campus, similar to what's set up here. A lot of the professors in the psychology program also work in the psychology clinic here. So that's kind of my dream. So that would be my hope, is that I'll be a professor, have my family, have some land, a few more dogs. I don't know.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about your experience in the military or in education before we wrap things up?
I would just say that I think it's really important for our veterans to take advantage of the benefits that they do get for being veterans. So many people join the military for the educational benefits, and only about half of them take advantage of it. So I think that's really important. It can be daunting to want to join back into, a school type setting after military experience, but I think, the one thing I've really taken away from this is that not nearly enough people take the plunge and try and further their education, because the tools that you learn in the military are, invaluable to the rest of society. So,
well, thank you very much for your service, Kelsey.
Thank you.
And just thank you for your husbands as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.